Hello guys, it's Trigger Art here, back with another video. On today's video we're going to be tackling how to draw characters in perspective. For this particular video we'll be focusing on three major perspectives: 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective. 1-point perspective is when you have one focal point. 2-point perspective is when you have two focal points, and 3-point perspective is when you have three focal points. Of course, there are more perspectives like 4-point perspective and the fish-eye perspective, but for today we'll be focusing only on these three major ones as they are good for basic knowledge and understanding. For the first perspective, we'll be using a cube as an example. This cube will be facing at the front end, and what you notice is when the cube is at the center, it's the other three sides are not visible, so you only get to see one flat object instead of a three-dimensional object. However, when the object is above, you get to see the top as well as the bottom, as it is above the horizontal line. When the object is below the horizontal line, or rather when it's below the horizon line, you get to see the top and the front view. The same thing goes when it's on the right side or on the left top side, above or below the horizon line. The object, you can see all the three dimensions of the object, like the top view, the side view, the front view, and the bottom view. For 2-point perspective, you notice that the perspectives are pulling towards two opposite directions. This perspective is very crucial for drawing an environment, a larger area, and you wanting to showcase various streets of a particular location, for example like a city. It gives that dynamic look to your drawings or your illustrations. As you can see, the 2-point drawing method, irrespective of where you have placed the object, you will always get to see the side view and the front view. Irrespective of where you place your object, you get to see all the three dimensional sides, if you will. However, once the object is very close to the camera, you are not able to see the top or the bottom view, for example. 3-point perspective uses three focal points. This perspective is a very dynamic perspective to use. This perspective is widely used for cover art or dynamic action sequences, as it gives the illustration, drawing, or animation a dramatic effect to it.
I'm going to show you how to draw characters in perspective. So first, what I'll do is, now that I have my perspectives in place, we'll start off with the 1-point perspective using as figure drawing. So I'll start on by reducing the opacity of all the layers. I'll turn them to, I think, around 13. The second one as well, with that. 4th, 5th, 6th, this is the horizon line. I'm also going to reduce it just a little bit, and then I'll add another layer for the figure drawing. So I'm going to use these lines as my navigation as you can see, everything is pointing towards the center. So that's where our perspective is, at the center. So I'll start off with the front view of the character to show you how it works. So with a stick figure, I can use a red twist. I'll start off with the head. I'll start off with the head at the center in perspective. So because of the perspective, the head will appear as if it's a bit upward. So we are going to do like a very firm posture. So the camera appears as if it's looking up. Almost you can see the chin of the character in a way. Let me reduce the size so that it will fit in. Just adjust it a little bit. So everything will appear from an outward, and as it goes down, so for this I'll do a pose of, let's say this guy is a bodybuilder, for example, and let's say it's a bodybuilder, so I'll add those muscles. Those muscles. And now what we must pay attention to is when everything falls into the horizon, when everything falls to the horizon, as it aligns with the horizon, it sort of becomes straight. So everything becomes straight, but from up that horizon becomes a bit the angle is almost as if you are viewed from a low angle. It becomes viewed from a low angle, but as it goes down the horizon line, it's viewed from a high angle, from almost like a bird's eye view. So there will be sort of this change in perspective in a way, from going down and then upwards. Though it's not as major from a side view, it's something that one cannot see properly in a way. So this can be viewed, maybe if I'm drawing a small character, like from this side, if I draw a small character, let's say he's facing that direction, I'm gonna use just a small figure to show you what I mean. Is that the character, his head, you will see most of the top of his head and his shoulder, the upper shoulder of his head, and it's almost as if you are viewing him from a high angle, like you are viewing him as a larger deity or as a larger being, and you are viewing him as a small individual. And also this is dependent on how close or how further the camera is. So the further something is, the smaller and weak it becomes, and the closer it gets to the camera, the larger and overwhelming it becomes. So these are the things that one has to pay attention to when drawing, when making such illustration in perspective. So what I mean is, as we enter the leg area here, although this is something that is just, there'll be a slight alignment to the angle, slight curve like this, to show that now you are viewing it from a high angle, and you can you see things mostly at the top rather than from the bottom, rather than a high angle where you can see the chin. And it's because of the horizon, that the lines that are above the horizon line. So I'll proceed to draw his legs. You can see the change here and towards the legs. I think I need to take it a little bit up. Just one more time. Okay, well. So I'll just slightly adjust so we can see. So as you can see now, things are starting to be in perspective. So his leg, we'll see most of the top of his leg, for example, will be more present than the lower. We won't get to see the lower part of his leg, but rather we'll be viewing it more from the top. You have to make also one thing to pay attention when you're drawing legs is that the first what should I call it, the thumb of a leg is normally larger than the rest. The other one tends to be almost the same length but thinner, and the other ones become a lot smaller. The same thing on the right is that the other one becomes almost its length, and the rest become very, very shorter. This, as I've said before, you are able to master with time. With time, you'll be able to master these things. And now the character blends in well with the perspective, with the ground. Now for the second illustration, which is the second 2-point perspective, as you can see, the focus now is on 2 points. So what we'll do is we'll draw the character from a side view. We'll try to maintain the same pose, but then change his perspective. So now his head, it's almost as if it's pulling towards 2 directions. So we'll start off with the side. This is the ear, and this is the side of the head. We'll see most of the side and a little bit of the front to kind of align with the angle. I'll just shorten the height a bit. I'm not looking for 100% accuracy. It's not what I'm going for, but I just want to make sure that the perspective is right. So his body from that side will be smaller, and from this side will appear larger because he's pulled from that direction. So we won't get to see much of this other hand. We'll see less of this other, of the hand on the right, and more emphasis on the right, on the hand on the left. So it almost becomes the same way. It almost becomes as if the hand is being viewed from a low angle. And since this is more of a close-up, the character it's more confident, more closer, we are entering more of his personal space. So I'll draw the thumb on this side. Other hand. So like I said, during the sketching phase, you shouldn't be concerned more with if everything looks 100% right. This is basically the brainstorming area where you are just weighing everything out, where you're just making sure that the shape, you got the shape right above everything else, and you'll focus more on neatness of the artwork during the line art. So we'll apply the very same principle as we did for the first illustration, except this time we are focusing on two perspectives rather than just one perspective. So the leg here on the left will appear larger, and since it's on the same size, the one on the right will appear very small, become smaller, and also the closer towards the perspective, or the further away, it becomes smaller. The closer, it becomes larger, right? So these two are the same size in a way. Let's say they are the same size, but because they are pulled, from two different perspectives, two different directions, they become different sizes. So this is crucial, and once one masters all these things, it will be easier for you to draw absolutely anything. Nothing will become as impossible as it once used to be, because now you have a better understanding on how perspective works. And I might have made these a little too large, so I'll just basically shorten a lot. Just reduce the size a little bit to make sure everything falls into place, and you won't get to see much of the other side. So again, we'll get to see more of the top side of the leg. The leg don't have to necessarily align with the direction, because the leg is not facing that direction, but rather is tilted a bit towards this direction, so it's caught in between the two perspectives. And we do apply the same principle, except this time the leg will appear a bit smaller. Like that. So now he is more intertwined with the perspective. He's more in perspective. It makes more sense now. And now for the last sketch, which is the 3rd point. Now our focus will be on these 3 points. So this is more effective and more useful. This perspective is more useful for dramatic shots. If you are capturing this character in a dramatic way. It's very, very useful. For example, I'm going to reduce the size of this character. So if the camera, for example, is viewing in a dramatic way on a low angle, let's say you place the camera at the bottom in a way, but it's facing the character in a more dramatic way. For example, his head on this angle will appear a lot smaller. Will be, as it's further away, it will appear a lot smaller. It will appear a lot smaller, and you could see the his entire chin, depending on how further away it is. And then his body will be pulled towards 3 directions this time instead of 4. You know, it will be pulled towards 3 directions instead of 4. So this time, instead of his head being pulled, to make an emphasis, I'll just straighten his arms. His arms will become larger as they pull towards the ground. Let's just say we should draw out his fist. So I'll do this blocky shape for now. We draw out his shape. Let me tilt his head a little bit so that it's more aligned. So this pose you normally see it with like a lot of superhero movies or a lot of like Batman or Superman movies. It's very effective for viewing a character from a very dramatic point of view. So this is very, very exaggerated, and as you pull towards the legs, the character becomes very, very dramatic. But then, as we still apply the same principle, below the horizon, we see it more from a high angle. So we'll see more. In a way, we'll see more of the lower side as it pulls down. The further down it goes, the more higher we get, and we view their character from the top to the bottom. So we'll see a lot of the top rather than the bottom. And from here and above the horizon line, it's the opposite. We'll see a lot of the bottom, like the chin, the bottom of the chest, for example, the bottom of his pecs if he has pecs. We'll see a lot of all these things. Even the fist, we'll see a lot of the bottom of the fist rather than the top of his fist. But this will make more sense once I polish the sketches and they become clearer, and you'll understand what I mean. So even the leg, so this makes more sense. We'll apply the same thing. And here, because his leg is pulled towards that perspective and it's facing that direction, we want to get to see a whole lot of the side, a whole lot of the other legs. We'll see the thumb, the leg thumb, and then we'll get to see just a little bit of the other side. It's a bit too dramatic, but I think you get the idea. And yeah, this is, I guess, a very simple way to draw, a basic way of understanding on how to draw a character, in perspective.
So now I'll polish up the illustration, make it a sketch, and then proceed with the line art phase. If you found this video very helpful, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. I also have various content on how to sketch characters, how to line art your characters, and how to properly shade your characters to get that anime look. Links in the description below. Thank you guys for watching and your continuous support, and I'll see you guys on the next one.